time to do the Q&A. It was very unexpected, so thank you everyone for asking me to come and sit here this evening. Sister Jayanti, I've got a few questions here that have been kind of collected from the people who have spoken in. So I would like to go through those first, if that's okay with you. And then if we have time, I've got a few of my own questions that I would like to get to at the end as well, so we'll see how much we get through. So firstly, I thought I would start in the words of the amazing Orzo a cappella, who said, "In this world, there is a whole lot of trouble." And I think we can all agree with that. So Sister Jayanti, I wanted to ask you whether you have any practical approaches, tips for people to manage the stress and the uncertainty that we are often faced with and the unexpected challenges that can come our way.
It's difficult to control things that are happening outside around us. What I can do is to take charge of what's happening inside of me. So if I come back to that point of peace that I am, and if I keep doing that, then in that state of peace, what happens is two things. A, I'm able to be detached from things out here, not detached in the sense of rejection or pretending they don't exist, but detached in the sense of being an observer, so that I can observe more clearly what's going on. And then I can have the possibility of, in that state of being detached, understand what it is I need to do to deal with this in my life. If I get taken over by emotion with all the evil that's going on, I don't know how to respond. And most times then in that confusion, my response is not appropriate. But if I can come to that point of peace and be an observer, then see what I need to do, I'll probably make a better job.
I think we can all relate to that. What about coming to that inner place of peace? Where do we start to move from the chaos of our lives back into that inner centre?
If I ask myself the question, well, who is feeling, who is thinking, who is believing, then I know it's not the physical body that's doing all of this. It's not even my brain that's doing all of this. It's this inner being. Why I say this is because that which has physical form cannot create that which is not physical. And so my brain is physical, it can be measured, it can be seen, it can be dissected, everything. And so where are my thoughts coming from? My thoughts can't be measured. I can sit here and think about Bombay or New York. I can go within a moment and be back again. And so my thoughts are beyond time, back and forth. My thoughts are beyond space. There's no limit to them. So it's not the brain that's creating my thoughts. It's the soul that's creating thoughts and feelings and emotions and personality and memories and all of this. So if I start asking myself the question, where is all this coming from? And I begin to look inside, and I begin to understand that consciousness is separate from the physical form. And then I look within consciousness, where is my consciousness? And if my consciousness is just in a state of negativity, of anger and frustration, well, that's what I'm going to generate outside also. And if my consciousness can come back to a state of peace, then that's what I'm going to share.
Thank you. Another question that we had here was, I suppose, from maybe people who are trying to deal with these same issues, not just within themselves, but maybe with their families as well. And I suppose that adds an extra layer of complexity when you're dealing not just with your own emotions, but with the people nearest to you. So do you have any advice about families who might need to change their routines or their lifestyles or their way of being, maybe due to health crises or economic problems or other things? What would you advise them?
What happens is, if I look at relationships first, then to a problem. But if I look at what's going on inside myself first and try and sort that out, then I'm able to bring that spiritual power into my relationships. I know, for example, in my own life, my mother was the one who was the powerhouse. My father was the breadwinner, but it was my mother who was actually the powerhouse. And she had this inner stability because she was a meditator for many, many years. And because of her stability and that peace that she had, she would be able to calm the whole family. And she would tell us, she would sit with us at night, and we'd have a conversation, and she'd say, all this is going to pass, things can get better, things will get better, but we have to remain calm about it. And so if one individual is looking after themselves inside, they share that with everybody else in the family. Think about fear and how fear is infectious. There's a group of 5 people and one person gets scared, and if there's nobody within that group who can calm them down, their fear becomes overwhelming and it infects everybody in the group, and everybody is then scared. But if one other individual has a sense of calm about them, then they are not only able to calm one, they're able to calm everyone around them. And so I know that one individual is able to bring peace or is able to create conflict. It takes just one. I think everybody remembers the story of the Twin Towers, and a brother who was yogi was working in the second tower. The first tower had fallen, and nobody knew what had happened, how it had happened. And the tannoy in the second tower was saying, "Stay at your desks, please stay quiet, stay at your desks." One individual, the person I know, he stood up and he said, "I'm going to go down. I know it's 64 floors, and I don't know what I'm going to encounter along the way, but if anybody wants to join me, join me." And that's what he did. The lights were gone, the water was coming in, that he led a group of about 18 people. The rest stayed. About 18 people chose to follow him. They came down, out, and the second tower fell. Now, one individual could make the difference to those 18 people. Those who listened, those who didn't, that was it. So, what's happening at that moment? Am I able to be clear in my own mind and pick up an intuition, a signal, and follow that through? Was it a crazy thought? It may have been. But he decided no, because he was a meditator. He knew it wasn't just a crazy thought. He knew it was a signal he was getting, and he followed it through. And so that's a very extreme state. But anybody who spends a little bit of time in reflection, contemplation, silence, call it what you will, but what happens in that is that you become very intuitive. You're able to catch signals that other people around you don't catch, and you're able to stay safe and bring others to safety, in whatever situation it is you happen to be in.
Yeah, I know people in my life who are meditators, and that is exactly the experience that I have had seeing other people who do it regularly. One of the things that I would like to pick up on there, Sister Jayanti, is when you were mentioning a few of the different stories there, it seems that one of the key things is not trying to force other people. It's not trying to make people do something, whether it's your family or your colleagues or the people in a crisis. It's just the being the change you wish to see. I think a lot of us get stuck in this trap though of trying to want to control the world, for good reasons perhaps, but not for good outcomes. How do we resist that urge to try to control other people and instead just be the light ourselves?
Have you tried to change anyone? Who's tried changing someone. Has it worked? It never works. And so I have to realize this, that I can't make someone else change. The only thing I can do is to be, as you said, be the change I'd like to see happen in the world, and then hope that my life can be an inspiration for others. And so I can't change people, I can only change myself.
Lovely, thank you. One of the next questions here is about staying motivated and positive whilst adapting to those major changes. So perhaps a career shift, a relocation, changes in family dynamics. I suppose these are things that don't resolve immediately. They can sometimes take time. So how do we stay motivated and positive whilst we're waiting for that change to happen?
You know, when a gardener is planting seeds, the gardener knows that I prepare the soil, I plant the seeds, and then, yes, it's up to nature, and if the rain comes at the right time, the sun comes at the right time, the garden is going to flourish. But there's a faith that, yes, things are going to move in the right way. So what I can do is make sure that my thoughts are clean, my thoughts are pure, elevated. And the words I use are also words of support and encouragement for those around me. And the actions I do, let them also be clean and not motivated by desire or greed or ego. Then I know that the outcome has to be a good one. That's the only way nature works. You do the right thing, and the right thing is going to happen. And if I'm angry and upset, those are the seeds I'm planting. What can I hope to be the result of that? But if I'm planting the right seeds, for a fact, I know that the outcome will be good.
So a little bit like a gardener or a farmer, we need to have patience while those seeds grow. Do you think that practicing meditation gives you patience, not only in the moment while you're practicing, but in broader life as well?
The whole purpose of meditation is to change my way of thinking. So although I'm meditating just for 10 minutes maybe, but the 10 minutes are going to have a longer impact. You know, people who use biofeedback machines, they tell you 1 minute of anger and the impact on the body lasts for at least 10 minutes. 5 minutes of anger, then it's not just the normal linear scale, but it's like half an hour that it takes for the body to cool down. Personal experience, don't mind biofeedback, but the research gives us that sort of evidence. Same thing, 10 minutes of meditation and I have peace, and that impacts the way of my thinking. In fact, not just only for the next 30 minutes, but if I were to have, say, every time you drink a glass of water, you're supposed to have 8 glasses a day, something like that. Maybe we don't always manage it. Good reminder. But when you're hydrating your body, at the same time, can you also hydrate the soul? Can you just take that moment of pause to come back in? And so that minute is going to impact your next 60 minutes. And it's going to be very beneficial. And so your peace stays with you through the next hour or so.
Yeah, that's a really great reminder actually, to catch those moments in everyday life and make them into something more special rather than letting them slip by.
What happens is that usually you're thinking about, oh, I should have made this phone call, or did I do this, did I do that? A lot of waste energy. But if I can use my mind in a positive way at that moment, that time is very well spent.
Yeah. The next question here talks about balancing the need for stability with the necessity of adapting to change in our personal lives. I think we all need a bit of both, don't we? We need that stability and structure. We also need change and novelty. So I suppose the question being asked is how do we balance those two requirements?
It's not so much balance as what comes first and what comes next. So if I start with a moment of stability, then change happen. If I don't have that power of stability first and a state of chaos, then whatever I do outside is going to be messy. And so start with that moment, but then experience how that works in a practical way out there, and it will be that energy that will flow through.
Yeah, that's another really brilliant answer. So before you're going to make any changes, you should always come back to that stillness.
Otherwise, you're just thrashing the water.
The next one here says, what are some examples of creative problem solving that we can use to address challenges in our daily lives? So, creative problem solving. Any tips or advice?
Many people today have cancer, 1 in 3. That's the statistic at the present time. And I've seen people handle it differently at different times. And the people who handle it gracefully are the ones who say, okay, I've been told I have 6 months, I have a year. How can I use this time to give happiness to those around me? And they very consciously make time for family to come together, they make sure that that happens, and they allow every moment to be a very beautiful memory that they leave behind. And even if it's not terminal, okay, I have this time and space which normally I wouldn't have for myself. But this is a time I can take for recovery, but not just recovery of the body. What can I do for my mind? Can I use my mind in a different way to explore things that I've never done before? Can I pick up a book about meditation? Can I pick up a book about values and study these things so that I start using things in my life? So illness is a messenger. It's telling me something's wrong with the body, but also that something's not quite balanced in my life, both things. And so the doctors will help me with the body. And yes, with meditation I can send vibrations of love to the body, and that's a wonderful healing process. But also, can I do good things with family, with friends and so on, so that 3-month span, that 6-month span is something which is again used in a very positive way. And the ones who don't do this, they mope and they feel overgrown and they complain, why me? And instead of being able to use that time well, they're actually being very destructive for their own body at that time too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. The next question here is about lifelong learning. And I was reading through these beforehand, trying to just figure out how to put these over. And I was talking with Jazz about the fact that we have all of this information at our fingertips. Knowledge is free, we can Google anything, right? But then that potentially comes with the thought that learning is not needed anymore, or it's not as necessary. So what role do you think lifelong learning has in keeping this balance and being able to approach life in a balanced way?
I mentioned Sister Jayanti earlier. I had the good fortune of being with her for most of my life. I first met her when I was 8, and I'm now 75, and she passed away when I was 71. So most of my life was with her, and she was studying till 1 month before she flew away, literally. She would study in the morning, she would study in the afternoon, she would study in the evening, and so her mind was constantly full of beautiful ideas. And when she wasn't studying, she was meeting people, she was sharing, and she would come out with amazing creative things. And even when the body was not well, and her story of life was that she had lots of different illnesses that she faced. So it wasn't that she was strong and healthy her whole life, no. But she managed to extend her lifespan just through her good deeds. And she had a very interesting formula for having a good life. She said 10% is medicine, 40% is the blessings I get from the people I serve, and 50% is the blessings I get from God. And so she used that combination in a very beautiful way, and I think that it's a good formula for everybody to keep in mind. 10%, 40%, 50%. And so she was a lifelong learner, and that's how she kept her mind fresh and young. It was never ever calcified. It was never at the point where, she thought that, okay, enough is enough. We tell her, Daddy, when are you going to retire? She said, I'm not tired. Why should I retire? And so she carried on. But lifelong learning is what keeps you going and keeps you young.
And this next one is about living in a fast-changing world. We all live in a world where our time, our attention, our energy is constantly being demanded by the external world. And it's easy, I suppose, in that rat race to not think so much about personal development, about lifelong learning, about self-reflection. So how do we keep these things front of mind and find the motivation to pursue them, even with all of the busyness going on around us?
There's another image I want to leave with you. At the top of the pyramid is me, then the next layer is relationships, and the next layer is work. And if I take care of me, the inner being, not in a selfish way, but making sure that I keep my mind positive and healthy, I keep my consciousness elevated, I make sure that I'm doing the right things, then relationships are going to work out well, because here's a person who's not together, and they're trying to give something to their family. How much are they going to be able to give? This much? This much? They're not going to give much more than that. If there's somebody who's balanced within themselves, there's a lot they can give to every relationship, social, family, work, everywhere. And then when it comes to work, everybody chips in, everybody cooperates, and so the work gets done in a more beautiful way, in a much faster way, whether it's family or whether it's work at the workplace. And so we forget this and we think that the output is most important. Well, the output depends on all the other things. If relationships are no good at work, what's the output going to be? It's not going to be very good. And so me, and then relationships, and then output. If I keep that in mind, it's going to work.
Do we have to finish up there, Ruth?